Hey there, welcome to All About Your Benjamins, the podcast, specifically the More Than Money series. Today I am excited to introduce you to my friend Doug Lynch. His chapter begins on page 71 if you're following along at home, and it's called Picking Up the Financial Pieces. Rather than try to memorize all of the great things that Doug has done, I'm going to read you his bio from the book. So Doug is the president and chief compliance officer of Lynch Financial Group. Lynch Financial Group is a fee-only registered investment advisor located in Dublin, Ohio, not too far away from me, that specializes in providing wealth management services to retirees and surviving spouses. As a graduate of The Ohio State University, with a double major in accounting and finance, Doug became a CPA in 1992, a CFA in 1995, and a CFP in 2014. So he has the trifecta of designations as a financial advisor. You won't find too many of those around. He's a member of the National Association of Personal Financial Advisors, NAPFA, the FPA, the CFA Institute, and the CFA Society of Columbus. So now that you know Doug, I hope you enjoyed this conversation. I hope you enjoyed his chapter, and we'll see you all in the next episode.
I've been a financial advisor since I got out of college, which was in 1989, so it's been 30-some years.
Okay, so I can only imagine the number of stories and clients that you have helped over 30 years. What was it about this specific story that stood out with that to be the one that you wanted to share in the book?
Well, when the group of authors, when we got together and went through the process of deciding what we wanted the book to look like, which, I guess in the way I view it was real stories about financial planning and its impact on client lives, I thought about who or what I wanted to write about. And pretty quickly I thought about my client Molly for several reasons. One, maybe a little bit of a recency bias, was she was a fairly recent client when we were going through the process of the book. And two, she was really a perfect example of what I think we were looking for in the book. She was still dealing with the grief of the loss of a husband just a little over a month prior to when we first talked. She was very young to be a widow. She was in her early to mid 40s. Her husband was slightly older, but still very young to have passed away. And she was facing all the financial issues that come with the death of a spouse. These included life insurance claims, identifying and dealing with bank and investment accounts, but also things that maybe an older widow wouldn't encounter, like signing up for Social Security widow benefits for her and her young children, figuring out what they were going to do about health insurance. Her husband had health insurance through his employer, and so that was going to end. And then she also had to deal with this while homeschooling her children, fairly young children, during the fall of 2020 during a global pandemic. So she had tons on her plate and really needed a lot of help with the financial side of things. And so in my chapter, we went through the immediate steps that we took with Molly, but then also, taking into account the situation that, we weren't going to solve everything all at once, the things that maybe we put off for later or when she figured out things, because obviously this was going to be somewhat of what I call a new normal for her life.
Well, if you strip out the working through and navigating a global pandemic and the kids, I'm unfortunately having clients pass away is a part of the business that we're in, and we have to deal with that. Surely this was not the first time you've had a client lose a spouse and navigating through that. How much of a benefit of it is it, 30 years of dealing with situations like this to help you in that moment? Like Doug in that moment was probably not Doug 25 years ago. So being an advisor, seeing it, how much of that experience shaped the way you handled the situation? Because I'm thinking back, if I'm new to the profession, like I might think, we got to do all these things at once. And then as you kind of go through the story, you realize, okay, some things are important and others can wait, and others probably should wait. So how much of that experience helps you with that?
Oh, I think a lot of it, and some of it is technical knowledge that you just learn along the way on different things, on how to do certain things. how to process certain things. But probably as important, at least, is kind of what you just said. Dealing with the clients and understanding, even though you've never been in that situation yourself, you've gone through it with other people, what they're going through, and maybe how much they can take. And then you also get a sense, client by client, you learn to read clients and in their, how much financial knowledge they might have or experience. Some spouses are very involved with things, whereas some spouses, male or female, maybe let the other one take the lead on things, and it's a lot more for them to take on.
I love that explanation because you mentioned what we wanted the book to be was about real stories of financial planning, and like the tagline is real life stories of financial planning. And I'll probably, through the series of interviews of all the authors, I will probably quote Tim Maurer at least half of the time that financial planning is more finance, or personal finance is more personal than it is finance. And what you hit on that I think is an underlying theme of this whole book, and especially in your chapter, is there is a technical part to working with a client and working with an advisor, but a lot of it is not technical. It's the people skills. And that's something that a real financial advisor doing real planning is more likely to do than somebody who's maybe more in a sales position. And not that one's right or wrong, but the soft skills and understanding how to help somebody process and grieve and take care of what needs to be done and let the other things settle if they need to settle, to give them time to get through this process is really important, because the last thing you want to do as an advisor is bring more stress to a situation because you're trying to push through things in a textbook way rather than in reading the client and helping them take care of the one or two things they need to do and then letting them just be. And then when the time is right, bring things back.
Yeah, I think that's dead on.
So with the chapter, you hit on some of the things you talked about. If you had to say there's an underlying theme to your chapter, like what's the main message you hope readers or listeners get from your chapter?
Well, I guess I think it would be, and probably not just my chapter, but all the chapters, is convey, what, some of us in the industry or more leaders than me have termed real financial planning, which is, having a real impact on people's lives beyond, an asset allocation or a security selection or a spreadsheet. Of sitting down with people and either, in Molly's situation, helping them through a very difficult period in their lives when it comes to the financial aspects, but also with other situations of helping them maybe identify what they want longer term out of their life, and really helping them achieve that. And when you work with somebody for, as I have for decades, seeing that come full circle to fruition is just very rewarding. And so seeing that part of the industry versus, I sometimes think when people hear, what do you do? I'm a financial advisor. I often think their eyes are looking for the nearest exit. Mm-hmm. And maybe that's somewhat well learned from some bad actors in the industry or pushy salespeople. But hopefully the book and the stories in the book convey the real important work that advisors can do.
Doug, you set me up for the next question, but I'm going to wait and come back to it because I want to go on a little bit of a tangent on something that you mentioned about spending time helping clients figure out what it is that they want. From your experience, do most people really know what they want, or do most people, when you first start working with you, really only have a surface level of what makes them the most happy, what they value the most, what they really want out of life? And so I'll give you a second to think about that as I kind of ramble for a moment, because my experience has been a lot of times people come in and they think they know what they want because it's what they've been told by others. And once you start to ask good questions and you start to peel back the layers of the onion, then they realize, well, they really want something else. And the reason for bringing this up is I'm sure some of the people listening to this or watching it and even reading the book are going to be other financial advisors. But the hope is that this book finds its way and these podcasts find the way to people who are not financial advisors. And I just want to use this moment and get your input on it as well to encourage people that take a moment and like reflect on your life and the things that you love and the things that you don't like, and really see, are those the things that make you the happiest? I'm coining a phrase right now of finding your authentic life. Like, is it really the life that you want, or is this the life that somebody has chosen for you? And then if it's the life that somebody chose for you, spend some time thinking about what's the life that you want, and then have the conversation with your financial advisor of how do you make that happen. So coming back to you, because you're the star of the show, I apologize for going out on a tangent, but what's been your experience? And it could be totally different, but do people really know what they want, or have you seen over the scope of a relationship what they said they wanted at the beginning ends up being much different from what they really want and makes them the most happiest as you've gone through the planning process?
I think as you would probably expect, it varies by person. Different people have different answers when it comes to that, but probably more often than not, I think they don't, initially at least. And that might be for a couple reasons. Some of it might be what you just said, that maybe it changes, but a lot of times I think maybe they just haven't even thought about it too much. They're busy leading their lives, working their jobs, raising their kids, whatever, and they know, hey, hopefully I can retire at age 65 or whatever, and have X dollars in my accounts to live on, and help my kids through college, but probably haven't, a lot of them, ever really sat down and really given a lot of thought to that question. And
which is where I think that we advisors can come in and really change their perspective. Like, I think a fun exercise would be like, why 65? And most people are going to say, well, that's because that's what my grandpa did, or what I'm supposed to do, or maybe somebody will say that's Medicare age. And okay, now there's a planning reason behind it, but most of the time the number is arbitrary that we just gathered from other people. And maybe it's the right number, maybe it's not. But to the point, I was hoping that would be what you've experienced as well. But I think it's a huge opportunity for us advisors, and also an opportunity for consumers and non-advisors to start asking for that type of help and say, hey, I don't really know what I want. Help me figure that out. Like, you've talked to hundreds of people, if not thousands of people over 30 years. How have you helped them? How have you helped people figure things out? What's life look like? Give me some feedback so I can start figuring that out. All right, now I'm going to go back to the question you teed me up for. You've got the opportunity now on this podcast, on this video, to clear up one misconception about financial advisors. So you said that sometimes people hear financial advisor and their eyes roll, or they go in another direction, they got to turn away and leave. What's something you would like to clear up and tell people about with financial advisors?
Well, I think number one, you need to find the right advisor for you. And I'm biased, but I think finding a fee-only financial advisor that's a fiduciary is a good starting point. But probably as much as anything, kind of what you just touched on, that and I mentioned earlier that it's not all about numbers. It's not all about asset allocation. A lot of times people think financial advisor is just investments. And it's really about your whole financial picture. But as we just talked about, it's more than that, of helping you find out what you want out of your life, and then making a plan to achieve that. And a lot of times, sometimes with a client, you do have to kind of be the bad guy that tells them, no, you can't do things. But a lot of times when I talk with clients, and I just had one this week where I said, they had a goal that was maybe a little bit unachievable. And I said, my job isn't to tell you can or you can't do that. I'm here to tell you can do that, but if you do that, there's a couple other levers you're going to have to pull that are going to have to be different for you to achieve that. And so, that type of thing of helping them achieve what they want long term, but then maybe helping them decide, is that really what I want, or would I rather adjust a little bit here to do something else longer term.
And that just shows a shift of kind of like the mindset of the profession, moving away from sales, moving away from we are the answer people to more of we're the guide. That ultimately, I'm in the same camp as you. I don't think it's my job to tell clients what they should or shouldn't do. It's my job to help them understand what the trade-offs are and opportunity costs are so that they can make the decision that's best for them with all of the information in front of them. And if there is a time bomb that's in front of them, letting them know and like diffusing that, but just saying, hey, in order to do this, you can't do that. Which one's more important? And then they know, and they look back over time and they say, all right, that didn't work out the way we wanted to, but we knew everything about it and we're okay because we wanted to take that risk. We wanted to do that thing. I'm with you. And then that's just a totally different shift. And I think that the profession is only going more and more towards more of a guide and a true advisor than like a financial answer person. So I think that's a great one to clear up. So I also enjoy part of this podcast showing the personal side of the advisors in the book. We deal with finance, so I think it's nice to be transparent about some wins and losses that we've done with our money. So the first one is, what's your best financial decision that you've made?
What's my best financial? Probably to early on in my career to really dedicate a lot of time and some money to learning as much as I can, and this is more the technical knowledge about what I'm doing. And so, when I graduated from college, I happened to be a CPA or a accounting and finance double major. And I took the CPA exam right out of college, which I always tell people is the only time I would have ever taken it, because after a year or two, there's no way I would have gone back and tried to put myself through that misery. But I took that, which has come in handy for various things. Then I did the CFA exam, the Chartered Financial Analyst, which really helped from an investment standpoint. And when I started in the industry, it was much more investment focused back then, and so that was very important. But then going to conferences, et cetera. So really investing in developing my skills later in life paid off in terms of my career.
Yeah, you've got the trifecta: the CPA, the CFA, and the CFP.
I did the CFP a little bit later. I took I got married and had kids and took a decade or plus off from exams and came back and did that.
And I say trifecta because there's tons of designations out there, but I think in the financial planning profession, those are the three that matter the most. Like those are the ones that you would want to seek out for different reasons, and you've got all three, which is awesome. We're probably about a third of the way through recording podcast episodes, and I don't know what order we're going to put them in, if it's going to be the book order or not. I haven't thought that far ahead, but it's interesting that all of the best money decisions have all been like investing in self or experience. Like none of it's been I bought Apple at $20. It's nothing that, which again goes back to this premise that personal finance is more personal, and that what makes the biggest differences for us on money, like there's a certain level of money that's important, but the things that matter the most that people think about rarely are the trades and things of that sort. It's investing in myself so that I become a better advisor and help more people, and then that helps my business grow and things of that sort. So I love to see that trend. On the flip side, even though we are money pros, we're not, no one's perfect. So what is the money lesson, or what's the decision you made that taught you the biggest money lesson, which is a polite way of saying what's your worst money decision? I wanted to change it so it's not so much shaming, because I want to get away from shaming money decisions, but there are decisions that are less optimal when it comes to money, but are big learning lessons. So What would be one of those scenarios for you?
Probably, I talked about taking the CFA exam and all that, and versus how we invest now. We were more active investors early on, not market timing, but investing in active mutual funds, etc. And so probably early on in my younger years, investing in some individual securities or even some options, and thinking I was smarter than the market or people that spent all day dealing with those types of things. I always put the majority of my savings into retirement plans, long-term focus, but dabbling in some of those things and losing money and learning some lessons along the way.
I don't know if people realize that part of the reason many advisors are against taking those lottery shots and doing those wild investments is because we've done that ourselves and we know it doesn't work out. Like from experience, we know how hard it really is, which is why we go a more diversified, kind of more, not conservative as far as risk, but like we're not doing that because we know it's really hard to do and more than likely we're going to cause more harm. So one of mine is similar. I haven't shared it yet on episodes, but I'll share with you is when I was working at another firm, we didn't put any of our clients' money into this investment, but it's one of those like private investments that wasn't like it wasn't like a hedge fund or anything, but it's like a private investment that invested in European distressed debt. And I was like, well, that sounds interesting and different. Like I'll put a little bit of money in there, and over a period of time when the markets did nothing but go up, like it went down. It was locked up as well, so I couldn't hindsight would have been I've been able to take the penalty, get it out, and invest it in just some basic stuff. I would have been better off. But I was one of those ones where I was like, well, I wanted to experience. I understand it. I'm more risk. I have more risk in me than my clients, so this is okay for me. Okay. And I'm like, lesson learned. I'm not messing with that stuff again. Which is why that's a part of my code as a financial advisor. All right. So as we kind of get to the end of the episode, what made you want to participate in it? What was it that said, hey, I want to dedicate the time and the energy, writing the chapter, revising the chapter, all of that? What made you want to participate in the book?
Well, number one, I like to write. So a lot of people don't like to write. And so I enjoy writing, and I thought it just sounded like a great fun project. And when I've got involved, in different groups within the AGC, I've always been happy that I did them, whether it be a book club or whatever, and that sounded like a great project with a lot of other great advisors to go through. And so it turned out a little bit different than we thought initially, for the better. Mm-hmm. But I just thought it sounded like fun. Well,
I want to thank you for taking the time and investing in it, because as I've told many people so far, I believe things happen for reasons, and everybody participated who was supposed to. And this book wouldn't be the book that it is today without your chapter. So there is a story that you brought that was unique, that tells a message that no one else told, and the book would not be complete without your chapter. So I want to thank you for taking the time to do it, and also thank you for being a good representative of the financial planning profession. Trying to overcome those rolling of the eyes and walking away from financial advisors. We need advisors like you, and I think this book does a good job of highlighting 29 advisors who are doing it the right way. So thank you for doing that as well. Everybody listening, watching, page 71 begins Doug's chapter. It's called Picking Up the Financial Pieces. So if you've not purchased More Than Money, it's not in focus yet, there we go. If you have not purchased More Than Money yet, please do so. It was just a reminder, all of the proceeds on our end of the book are going to financial planning organizations like BLX, the Foundation for Financial Planning. So this is not a situation where we, the authors, are getting anything from this other than spreading good word and then giving back to our profession to make it better and move it forward. So if you've not bought a book, buy a copy for yourself and for a friend and give it away. And make sure you read the whole thing, but especially hit up Doug's chapter as well on page 71. So Doug, thank you again for your time and your participation. Everybody, thank you for watching and tuning in. And remember that everything around personal finance, it's not just about the numbers, it's more than money, which is why we call the book More Than Money. And we'll see you all in the next episode.
Thanks, Justin.